What's up, everyone? Welcome to a brand new video on the channel. Welcome to some Forza Horizon 4 again. I'm back with another video, and this one is another one of the videos that you guys have suggested to me. And also, I think it's a really good idea for me to make this video now, especially since Forza Horizon 5 is literally just like about a month away. I think less than a month away right now. So I am I think I'm good with making this video. I think I'm happy with making this video now, since I've played this game pretty much. I've rinsed this game dry pretty much. But yeah, this is, again, like I said, it's an idea suggested by you guys, so thank you very much for doing that. If you want to suggest ideas, you can do it in the comments and whatever. And you can also tell me what your favorite cars to slide around with in Forza Horizon 4 have been, or still are to this day. Like I said, this is a great time for me to make this video, just because, you know, again, the game is pretty much on its last legs, so I feel like it's good for me to showcase what some of my favorite cars are to drift around in this game with. Now, they could be for anything. It could be for something specific, like this car, for example, that I'm driving right now, where it's really good for point drifting, or it could be something else. But you guys will see the rest of the cars very soon. But as usual, if you guys are new to the channel, you enjoy the content, you want to see more, all that sort of stuff, please subscribe. Helps me out a lot. Try to reach some goal for this year. I was gonna say 350,000 subs, but I don't think it's possible. Regardless, I'm just gonna say it anyway. If you want to help out with that, then of course subscribe. But yeah, I'm gonna start off with the Shelby King Cobra. Now this is I don't know, it's like a car that can literally do anything in this game. Literally anything. I can drift it, I can drag race it. It's one of the fastest accelerating cars in the game. Actually, it's the fastest accelerating car in the game at the moment, and it's just way too good at sliding around. So that's pretty much why I wanted to show you guys this. I think this definitely has to be up there in my top 5 cars. Again, I decided to sort of narrow these down to top 5 just because I feel like there should be a lot more on this list, because there's a lot more interesting and really good... Okay. I completely forgot how to drive this thing, by the way. This is supposed to be driven with sim steering, by the way, not the way I'm driving it right now. And this is literally supposed to be just a point drifting build. And again, like I said, it's a car that can do everything. And it's way too good at this. It is way too good at this. That's why this has to be on this list. Like I said, I could have done a lot more than just the 5 cars, but I think top 5 is probably decent enough for me to show you some of the cars that have influenced or just made an impact, or, you know, like, I really enjoyed driving around in, and this has to be one of them. Whether it's just going for high scores on the needle climb, or it's, you know, just messing around and driving this thing in general, overall this car is ridiculously good for everything, especially point drifting. Point drifting in this thing is a dream. It's so much fun to drive. It's really easy. Again, with sim steering, this thing is ridiculously good at the needle climb, especially with the tune that I have on now. There's a lot of different types of tunes that you guys can download and play around with and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure I made videos on this car in the past regardless, where I showed off like ridiculously good tunes. But this is, like I said, like a ridiculously good car for this purpose, which is what I'm doing right now, and that is point drifting on the needle climb. There's a lot of different types of events as well that this thing can be used for, especially with the tune that I have on now. But for right now, from what you guys have seen, the Shelby King Cobra is an absolute beast. Right, let's move on to something else. Another car that I really wanted to showcase is this. This is the Formula Drift Ferrari 599. It's so good. I adore this car. If you guys remember, there's been a lot of different types of cars that were added into the game with the Formula Drift car pack, and this is one of my favorite ones. I absolutely adore this thing. A lot of people went for the Viper. A lot of people like really like the Viper, stuff like that. And with this being added into the game alongside some of the other cars, you know, and being put alongside some of the other Formula Drift cars, I feel like this car stood out so much more. I adored this car when it came out. I absolutely love it now, and I loved it ever since. I always ended up using this thing a lot more than I ended up using the Viper, because I just sort of enjoyed it more. I felt like I've built a really good tune for this car, especially for point drifting, and like I said, I absolutely loved driving this thing. It's just such a nice car to slide with. Again, it's not really that great when it comes to comparing it to the to the Shelby King Cobra, but it is one of the best cars out there, I think, in my opinion, to slide around with. Whether it's you're learning to drive or whatever it is that you're doing, it's such a beautiful and clean car to drive. I adore it. Like I said, if I was to pick a car from the whole Formula Drift selection of cars that were available, this would go immediately. Like, I immediately pick this thing. I love it. And I've made videos on this car in the past, and I've used it for top 1000s in the past as well, and this car absolutely destroys events. It's just really, really good. So that's why I had to add this car to my top 5. I had to do it. Like, it was just way too good for me not to. Sounds great too, and it just has so much power. Accelerates really well. Like, I have nothing bad to say about this thing. It's just beautiful to drive. Again, it's another car that you should be using sim steering with, but yeah, this thing with my tune on it is amazing to drive. I absolutely love it. It's really, really good. Right then, let's move on to car number 3. Okay, calling this a car, I feel like was a mistake, but it's the PLP50. It has to be. Look at it. You see someone drifting around this thing, you just know they have a smile on their face. I mean, like, how can you not? The PLP50 in this game is just genuinely a fun car to just mess around with and drive. Just in general, it doesn't have to be specifically for drifting. And it's terrible for drifting. It is a terrible car to slide around with. But it is a ton of fun. It's so much fun to try and slide this thing around. And just to try to get some points or something going with this thing. It's most of the fun. Like, that is literally half the fun. It just comes from just attempting to slide this thing. And that's why I had to put this in my top 5. Again, it doesn't have to be how good a car is or how bad a car is. It's just what sort of impact it makes on you when you're driving this thing. And I love this car, so I had to add it to my top 5. It's just so much fun to drive this thing and try to send it sideways. It's all-wheel drive now, so it's so sketchy to drive. There's probably better tunes than what I have on now. But here is the little cart trying to sort of slide. It's so quick to change direction. I want to do one full run going downhill with this thing. I want to do it without messing up, without doing anything. It's just so hard. You can't really change a lot of stuff on it regardless, but it's a funny thing to slide around with, honestly. And it just puts a smile on your face when you're trying to drive this thing around. The whole map just seems to vibrate or like shake whenever I'm taking this thing sideways. It's weird. It is very, very weird. Again, just trying to manji or anything with this thing is just a task. It's a task because it just... Look at it. I'm stuck. Come on. There we go. It's a task to just do anything with this car. But I guarantee you, trying to drift it is a lot of fun. So that's why I had to like smack this somewhere on this list because of that. But honestly, once you get used to it, it's not terrible. You know? There honestly are worse cars than this thing to drive around or to try and slide. And again, with a lot of things modified on this car, I mean, I had to try and build one of these things for drifting. Like, it's just... You do have some sort of engine swaps available for it, so it's fun to do that, but... I just have to be so careful with how you put the power down, the amount of counter steering you end up using. Try not to, like, you know... Oh god. Try not to let it flick back too hard or else it's just gone. Like that. Just like that. And I immediately fail because of it. But again, it's a challenge. It's just way too fun to drive. I'm not going to keep doing this over and over again, just going uphill. But once you do get the hang of it, like, it just does that for you. And it's just... It's a treat to drive. Look at it. Oh god. It's way too fun. I had to add the PLP50 into my list. I think I've spent enough time on this car. Let's move on to something else. Now, I know it's a little odd, but I went from one extreme to another. From one of the smallest cars in the game to one of the largest. And this is the Volvo Iron Knight. Now, this, initially, when I first tried to mess around with it on the channel, I found it a little bit difficult. But then, obviously, as I got better and I progressed through the game and I got used to cars more, and obviously people creating better tunes and me experimenting with tunes and stuff like that, this thing just became such a fun thing to slide. It was just way too good to take sideways and slide and not, you know, get like good amount of points or anything like that. Like, just honestly just having fun sliding this thing. It is absolutely gigantic. And it's always fun to see people's reaction whenever you just take this thing out sideways and you keep up with them, or you're just better at sliding than they are in normal cars. It's just hilarious, and I had to slap this on my top 5. It's just such a good thing to slide with. Again, if it's tuned correctly, it just feels like a normal car. It doesn't feel any different. It doesn't show its size, or it doesn't... I mean, it does show its size, but it doesn't feel its size, if that makes sense. Like, you take this thing sideways, handbrake, everything just works as, you know, as a normal car would work. Again, it's a little... It just feels like it could use a little bit more power going to the rear wheels, or it just could use a little bit more of a setup that would... that a car would have on it, but again, this is made just to oversteer constantly and just to constantly be sideways. Again, it's just you have massive wheels on this thing, so you have to keep that in mind. You know, I can't just be like, yeah, this is gonna be easy to drive or easy to drift. And obviously, again, it's got a big diesel engine. I know it's making a lot of power, but I know it's making a lot of power, but also makes a lot of torque. And you can see you don't really have a lot of revs to play with, so it's a little strange to drive, but like I said, once you get the hang of it, it's very good. And it just feels like a normal car. I love it. I love this thing. I didn't even finish it. 350,000 points, but it's just lovely to drive. Again, it just feels like a normal car to drive. And if you're driving anywhere on the road and you're just going around doing this with it all the time, I'm telling you, people would be like, what the hell is going on? I genuinely love this thing. It's a really good... I was about to call it a car. It's a really good truck to drive. It's a really good truck to drift. Alright, let's move on to our last car. The final one. Now, I'm sorry that it's nighttime and I had to go into photo mode so I can just bring up the exposure by a lot. But this is the final car for my list. The Porsche 911, you know, here it is. There's a sign. There's a little badge that says Singer on it. So this is the Singer 911. It is lovely. It's probably one of my favorite cars to drive in this game when it comes to just driving in general. Again, the tune that I have on this thing is just beautiful. It's a proper mix of it just being actually fast, but also being a really good drift car. And I honestly recommend driving this thing because it is such a joy to drive. It is one of the easiest cars to slide in this game, in my opinion. One of the easiest ones. Fully rear-wheel drive, obviously still rear engine, so rear engine, rear-wheel drive. The front end is so light and playful, and you just send this thing sideways. You have all the power in the world. It makes a good noise. It looks so good as well. This has to be up there, like one of my, if not my favorite car in this game. Genuinely. I think I've said this back when this thing got released in the game, and we actually got to play with it for the first time. And I loved it then, and I absolutely adore it now. Just the rear engine rear wheel drive setup is just different to drive to any of the other ones. Like, it's just different. I mean, I don't know how else to say this. Like, there's still a lot of cars in this game that I absolutely love that I would definitely add to like top 10, for example. Like, I'd put the Ferrari 458 there. You know, either the Speciale or the 488 or whatever. But just that generation of Ferrari mid-engine rear wheel drive ones are beautiful to drive. I absolutely adore those. Just driving them stock, and you take them out on the needle climb or whatever, and you decide to try to drift them, just completely stock. They are so good to drive. And even the Ferraris that are the V12s, you know, the 599 or the F12 or the A12, whatever, you get those things out and you take them sideways, and they're such a joy to drive. They're just so well balanced. So there are still a bunch of other cars. I know I've just mentioned Ferrari, but there's a bunch of other cars that I still do enjoy. The Hammer, actually. The Hammer is another one of them that I would definitely add to like my top 10. It's such a good looking car and it drives so well. It's a really good drift car. So again, there's a lot of different cars that I would add to my top 10, but I think in my top 5 I'd have to put those because they're just... First of all, they're influential to all of my gameplay that I've done on the channel so far. And of course, you know, they're just really, really good and fun cars to drive. Whether they're good or they're bad for drifting, they're just really, really fun to drive, which at the end of the day is what's important. So that's pretty much it. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed my top 5 list of cars. I know some people probably were expecting, you know, I don't know, an S13, S14, a Skyline, you know, stuff like that. That's just boring, right? They're all good if you make them good. I mean, that's the same case, I guess, with a lot of cars. But if you want something unique, something good to drive, something fun, it has to be like my top 5. Again, I always spend a lot of time, you know, messing around with cars that shouldn't go sideways, or cars that, if they do end up going sideways, I want them to be like interesting and unique. So that's why I ended up making this list of my top 5 favorite cars to drift with in Forza Horizon 4. If you guys have a different list, which you obviously will do because everybody has different opinions, let me know down below. And as usual, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and like I said, leave your thoughts down below. But that's it. I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Goodbye.